Hey, everybody, welcome to Talking the Fast Lane. Well, we got another very special episode tonight. I mean, I can't believe it's been 40 years, but if you look at the album sitting behind me, it's been 40 years. But man, I uh, I can't say that those 40 years have been so great because of this music. I mean, I look at these 10 albums and really this is what started it for me. I have a couple favorites on here, obviously, that I continue to listen to. But really, when I look back at my past, I look back at 1983 and going into 84, man, and I just smile because this is what started it all. This is what's continued through 40 years. And this is really what made me what I am. And the music that I love is still here, still sounding great. And we can still look back and appreciate the memories that tie in with these 10 albums. I have three very special guests here with me tonight, some very good friends of the show. Let's say, I don't even want to say esteemed guest of folks here, but esteem is a strong word. But man, I love these guys. So let me get them on here. Let me introduce everybody. My man, Dangerous Doug Franklin.
Did you say steamed? Steamed as in broccoli? That's how I like my broccoli.
Yeah. That's it too, man. You're green like that too.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Who else we got tonight, John?
All right, let's bring them on, man. We got, my best friend. This guy's been friends with me it's been 40 years right now, which is insane to look back. It feels just like yesterday. I love him like a brother. He's family to me. John Marshall, like John.
Good evening, gentlemen. How you doing?
Look, he called us gentlemen too, Doug.
He's whack.
That's loose, man. That's really loose.
There's something wrong with him. That's why they had to name him twice.
You know why? Because he's so great. That's why we named him twice.
Hey, Carrie.
That's the way it is, man.
All these guys. Wow.
John, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
We got one more to announce too. This guy's I see him chatting in a Fast Lane forum. He put some things out there. He's new to this, for us, but like I said, I wanted to get a fan on there and welcome a new friend to the show, Mr. Mike Flores. Mike.
Hey guys,
how you doing tonight, brother?
I'm
good. How are you? It's my pleasure
nice
to
to
meet
have
you.
I'll have you know, John, this guy here is not just a fan. He's also got a pretty kick-ass band out here called Steel City.
I know he does. And that's what we were going to do.
I just missed him at the whiskey. I'm really not liking myself for missing that show.
It's quite all right, man. There'll be more. That we were talking about that just recently. Jason, is our bass player and also pretty much Jason Cornwell, our bassist and also de facto manager, so to speak, he's already working on that. So there'll be other opportunities, man. No worries.
And who's the vocalist in this little band?
Oh, it's a fellow by the name of Roy Cathy, also known as the Mouth of the South. And he was he's still in a band called Cold Sweat. And our drummer is actually from Cold Sweat as well. It's Mr. Anthony White. And then rounding out our lineup is Tony Stahl, who's been in a lot of really killer bands, including one called Livesay. We were just, 5 guys from 5 different states who get together a few times a year to play some gigs. And John, you're still from the Pittsburgh area?
I'm still here. Yes? Me and John both.
Okay, well then, good news for you. We'll be playing probably in Youngstown, Ohio. We're just waiting to finalize the date, and that'll be coming this fall.
Very nice, man. We got to come out and see you guys, man. I've had Roy on the show twice actually, and he's a great guy. Great guy. I know Tony from Livesay. I've spoken to him a few times. He was on our record label for a while with Livesay. So some really good guys in that band, man.
Tony's great people, man, for sure. Love them. I mean, all the guys that we have in the band are fantastic. It really just kind of felt like once Anthony White joined, honestly, it just felt like the band was complete. We were starting to feel a little bit like like Spinal Tap, because he's the fourth drummer to kind of roll through. But once he came through and did a gig with us, it just felt like it was the Masquerade gig that we did with Bradley Entertainment in Philadelphia. Once he played that gig with us, man, we just felt like this is it. This is the lineup. This is who we got, and we're pretty excited about that moving forward.
That's a great lineup too. I mean, I had that Cold Sweat album back when it came out. Was it 89? I believe 90. And that's what started it right there. That's a great album. I mean, Roy on vocals. I mean, that guy hasn't lost a beat. He sounds better now, I think, than he did back then. That's saying it.
I agree. Totally.
I probably have to agree with you. And originally I'm from Youngstown, Ohio, and when I moved to Florida and I was going through respiratory therapy school, I just didn't have a lot of cash. And I remember like having to think like, okay, am I going to buy like the Shotgun Messiah album or the Cold Sweat album? You have to make a choice at some point, and I didn't buy Cold Sweat back in the day. I really didn't even hear Cold Sweat until I did a show with Roy in Illinois. And the first time I saw Roy play, I was like, holy shit, man, that guy is just unreal. And it just became fortuitous that he ended up in Steel City. It's like our former label actually had a hand in putting that together. He just kind of suggested it, threw it out there. And but I had to sell Roy on it. And so far it's been fantastic. I love the guy, man. He was out here for the whiskey show, stayed at my house, and we just had a blast together, man. He's a great dude. Good people. Love him to death.
Yeah, that's the truth. And it's those good people that have the staying power too. I mean, those guys, stick around for so long, and we all know how tough this business is. But when you have people like that you're involved with, it just makes it that much easier. And that's the cool part of this.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, guys, I mean, we got 10 albums to discuss here, and I look back behind me and just think, like I said in the intro, I can't believe it's been 40 years. I mean, it feels like yesterday. And I can still remember the first time that I heard Motley Crue shout at the devil. And it's really the first time I heard Motley Crue because, that was that era. I mean, we were into the first Bon Jovi album, obviously, which is one of my top albums of all time. I just, we were so, consumed with that one. And my buddy Scott Salvatore, I don't know if he's listening right now, but I remember the day we're out there playing wiffle ball in his backyard. And we're going to take a break now. I mean, it's like 80 degrees out there. We take a water break. And Scott goes, hey, guys. He goes, come on up. He goes, I got to show you something. And we went upstairs. He had that old-time VCR. I mean, this thing weighed like 500 pounds.
I remember those.
And it almost looked like a cement block sitting on his television. But anyway, he throws in Looks That Kill. And I was Too Young to Fall in Love. I'm sorry. He throws Too Young to Fall in Love, the video, in because he recorded it off MTV. And that was the end of it for me. I said, holy shit. I said, this is exactly, the sound I wanted to hear at the time, and it's just really what started it for me. I mean, that one and Quiet Riot, Metal Health, those were the two that really kicked me into the stage where I'm at, where I'm said, look, I'm not going to be bothered with the top 40 anymore. Obviously, I mean, that's what we were pushed on the radio back then. That's the stuff that they, put out front. They never put the metal out front until actually Quiet Riot kicked it on with Metal Health. So that's my experience, guys. I mean, I can't say that I have a favorite out of this list, but the one that started it for me is Shout at the Devil.
Yeah. That's it. It was a great album for sure. That's probably my first introduction to Motley Crue. Of all their albums, for me, that's still got to be my favorite. That, hate to say it, Theater of Pain would probably be my second, and then after that, they just kind of went a little bit downhill for me. But man, Shout at the Devil, it's one of those albums that when you saw it on MTV, I think you guys would agree, man, that's kind of one of those life-changing albums. You see those guys, they all look larger than life, and you're like, that's what I want to do, for sure. That's what I'm into, and great stuff.
Yeah, I guess the thing that captured it for me too was it was like the that was Crew at their best. I mean, it was Decadence, Defiance. It was heavy, it was cool, and it was just something that, like I said, at that time when you saw it, you were just blown away. It was larger than life. It was something that was different, and it was really something that music needed at that time too. We were getting into that, kind of like that British wave, and that was kind of like, for guys like us, we didn't like that. I mean, it was just like, I don't want to listen to this, and we'd make fun of it or whatever. And what's funny now is when I listen to it, there was some good music back then. I mean, it's better than what we have out now, at least in my opinion.
I don't know.
On the radio, let me put it that way.
There you go. Yeah, because I was gonna say there's a lot of good bands out right now, and contrary to popular belief, they're not all from Europe. We've got a lot of great American bands, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in so much, so I'll just kind of lay back a little bit. But yeah, it's
look at the new guy making waves in here, man.
Yeah.
Hey, that's why we brought him on. I mean, he's joined us, and we Mike, we appreciate the support, and from all you guys. I mean, everybody that supports Talking to Fastlane and all the stuff that we do here, man. I can't tell you how much it warms my heart when I see people responding to things and getting involved, because my whole idea behind this was I wanted to make this a place for fans, for people like us, where we could all just get together, make friends, all support each other, and do something that's different, not have it to where, somebody stands out and takes all the credit. I want everybody that's involved with Talking to Fastlane and everything that I do to be a part of something special, and that's the reason I started this.
Very cool.
So, Mike, just so you know, your boys from Glam Rock City, Curtis is watching. Sam from Midnight Devils is watching.
Oh man!
Hey guys,
actually, they're on their way to a gig. I believe they're in the van right now listening to us. So thanks for tuning in, guys. You guys are the best.
That's a great band,
man. I have a tendency to go off on a tangent, and I'm gonna just do that now and get it out of the way. This thing we're doing right here wouldn't be possible without the support of all these guys that start these groups, that push the music, push the bands. I'm one of them, we thank you all. And to these kick-ass bands out there still doing it, you'll get me off on another tangent, which should be for another show, about all these people that are just paying all this, they're packing houses with tribute bands where original artists are out there struggling, and you tell 30 people about a show, hey, come see me, and then the night of the show, like maybe 2 or 3 of them are in the fucking crowd. So that's just me venting a little bit, but thanks for watching, guys. We're gonna try to be a little more interactive with you guys watching than we normally are. It's just sometimes once we start getting talking, especially when we have a lot more people on the panel, it gets kind of screwy. But we're gonna try to stay true to answering your questions and all that fun stuff as we go.
Have you guys
seen
Midnight Devils?
This is when I mute Doug when he gets on his tangents.
Last September, I saw them with Pretty Boy Floyd at Vamped, and I'm lifelong hooked. And Sam is those guys are just great guys too.
Mr. Spade has some stage presence, and I'll just leave it at that. He's pretty badass.
Agree.
Sniper's a pretty killer guitar player as well. But all those guys, man, Jimmy, great drummer. For a trio, man, those guys just kick ass.
They've got a way big sound for just a 3-piece band.
Yeah, for sure. I've only met them once when we played. I think we played with them as well at Rock and Skull in 2018. They're all like really cool dudes.
All right, guys, John, I kind of gave you my little take on the albums, but let's get into some of these. I mean, John, what's one that stands out for you? I mean, I kind of know what it is. We've been friends for so long, but go ahead. Let's get your point on this.
So the big one that stands out for me right off the top is obviously Kill 'Em All. I mean, it was a departure from everything that was out there. And, you know, living back here in the middle of Pennsylvania, there's nothing. We had no cable TV, no decent radio stations. And then somebody comes along and slips that tape in a tape player one day, and I was just like, wow. It was absolutely incredible. And, I mean, it really changed the way I looked at a lot of things. I mean, Quiet Riot, obviously the big commercial success, the first one. You know, they were kind of riding the coattails of AC/DC and Def Leppard a little bit to a point. But Def Leppard didn't get big until after Quiet Riot. But it was Metallica that changed it. I mean, just the sound itself was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. You know,
it was different.
The strung out songs too. You know, nobody was doing 5 minute, 6 minute songs. You heard your buzz on the radio, it was 3 minutes, 3.5 minute songs.
Right. And really with that too, like, you know, like I said with Motley Crue, it was Motley Crue kind of had like the glam side of it. And then Metallica had the heavy side of it. It was just something that, man, it's like you have a brick wall steaming at you.
Yeah.
You know, and there's just 4 guys up there just cranking it. And it's not even, you know, they're there to, you know, they really had the vibe behind them too. I mean, those guys were hungry. And that was the side of it that I took. And, you know, not only the originals, but man, when I had to have the copy with 4 Horsemen on it, because that tune, that's my favorite song off of that, because it's the way.
I have to agree with you.
Awesome tune.
Oh yeah, but the original copy with Blitzkrieg and Am I Evil?
Right.
That one's a tough one.
I found that at a flea market about 15 years ago. The kid had it sitting there. He tells me $3. So I was grinning ear to ear on that.
I can't say as I blame.
I'd buy 20 copies for $3 each.
Heck yeah.
So Doug, what about you? I mean, you know, I kind of know what way you're heading because we chatted before, but what's your take on these 10?
You guys know me. We had a whole 3-hour discussion about this certain band just about a month ago. As I look at all of them, I remember, you know, you're talking about 1983. I was fucking 12, right?
Right.
And what a year to have, because that pretty much, I remember the first band I really got into before Kiss was Van Halen. So this time next year we'll be doing this again, and you know 1984 will hit its 40th anniversary and all that. So, but Lick It Up of this list, it has to be Lick It Up, because to me, 80s Kiss was my Kiss. I was too young to see him with the makeup on. I remember seeing him on MTV when they unmasked, and that album, I'm sorry, but like Creatures of the Night and Lick It Up to me are probably what saved the band. And the songs that Vinnie Vincent wrote, it brought a whole new dimension to their music. So it's got to be Lick It Up for me. I know that sounds biased. All these other, and probably a close second, and I know we'll get into it, is Twisted Sister. You Can't Stop Rock and Roll is probably my favorite Twisted Sister album. That was a kick in the fucking balls.
It's a great album.
Their sound is absolutely, I mean, for a refined sound like it is, it's completely heavy. It's hard to believe that somebody that has kind of been maligned for being kind of glam, kind of this, kind of that. But if you listen to it, their sound, their guitars are just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
And guys, you know, I look at all these bands right here, and I've been seeing concerts, you know, just like you have for 40 years. and still to me the best live band I've ever seen is Twisted Sister. If you guys have ever seen Twisted Sister, if you've gone to see those guys live at any time, especially in the glory days,
Yeah,
it's something.
I saw them. I think I saw them twice.
It's a revival.
You and I were
like,
both
man.
at
It's
that
ridiculous.
show. We didn't know each other back then. We were both at that show at Civic Arena. It was Twisted Sister and Dawkins. That was probably, if I
Wow.
put it together right, maybe my third or fourth concert at all. And the stage set they had for that. I know we're getting off subject because we're talking about, but that band live, it was like, I don't know. I was never a big Crew fan. They actually sounded good live.
They did. I mean, and Dee Snider, what he does with a crowd is amazing. I mean, it's like nobody else that I've ever seen. The things that he does, you know, the way he gets people to interact together, and you almost feel like you're in a church of rock, because that's really what it's like.
Yeah, because he doesn't let
best
you
front
just,
man I've ever seen.
He doesn't let you just stand there and go like this. He's in your face. He's yelling at you. He's like, "Hey, fucker, you're not making enough fucking noise." I love him.
I remember the one thing that he said. He was mad. He said, and you guys might hear it on some of these live things. He says, when I step back, he says, and I peruse the audience, he goes, I see a lot of people sitting down. And then he says, sitting down at a Twisted Sister show. And then he had to apologize because there was a handicap section. So he said, you know, he said, I didn't mean you guys. He goes, because, you know, everybody was involved in it. It didn't matter. You know, even the ushers were involved. I mean, you had people that didn't even like the band to get involved with these guys. I mean, that's the cool part of this music, is what it does and how it affects people. It's so much about, you know, passion and how you feel, especially, you know, not only when you just listen to it, but when you come out of a live show, you feel like you've been at an event. You know, you're worn out, but you're happy too. I mean, that's the part of this that I think that's missing in today's, especially the top 40 stuff. The excitement isn't there. You know, we're not. It doesn't seem like we're pushing the right things. We're pushing more to the negative than the powerful positives that this music brings. And Mike, I'm going to let you step in here with your favorite, because I know you know, obviously being in the band, you know, that you're in with the guys that you work with, I know you got a good you know, sense to add to this. So go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Without question, it's not even up for debate. For me, it's Kiss. It's Lick It Up. Same thing. You know, I actually loved The Elder. I really did. But when they came out with Creatures of the Night and then Lick It Up, and you felt that shift. It was just amazing. It's like, oh, they want to be hard rock again. They want to be heavy metal again. They want to be badass again. And a lot of that had to do, whether, you know, I don't know if those guys would ever admit it, you know, Paul and Gene, but a lot of that seemed to me like it had to do with Vinny's writing. And, you know, I just remember, you know, I was old enough to see Kiss with the makeup. I saw them on the Dynasty tour. I think I was either 11 or 12. I'm just a couple of years older than you. And I'd have to say, of all the times I've seen Kiss, the two best shows were probably the Dynasty show, and I saw them at the Stanley Theater on the Lick It Up tour.
Oh wow!
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, Stanley Theater is not this big place, right? But here's the crusher for you, the soul crusher. My dad would not let us go into the Stanley Theater by ourselves. I don't know, maybe he thought we were going to get kidnapped or something. Who knows? We had 10th row seats. 10th row. He's like, nope, I'm coming with you. We had to exchange them and we pushed back to the 27th row. I was like, you know, looking at him. I remember just the disdain looking at his, like, you son of a bitch. How could you? But, you know, and the funniest part about it was when, you know, Kiss came out, and, you know, they took the makeup off. My dad looked like Gene Simmons, and everybody was like, dude, you look like Gene Simmons. but which he hated, being the jazz guy that he was. Yeah, man, that was just a great era for Kiss. That and the 400-year guitar solo that Vinnie Vincent played at that show, I do remember that. And I do remember those guys just kind of looking at him like this is never going to end. But he was such a great songwriter, man. And definitely an inspiration behind my playing. Him, Ace, Bruce, you know, the everybody that's ever been in Kiss has been just, you know, influential in my playing for sure. So yeah, great albums. I'll shut up now.
I agree.
No.
I think Vinnie Vincent is probably one of the saddest notes in rock history, because think about it. He got with them. I know Creatures of the Night is like a hodgepodge. It's all over all the players that supposedly played on it.
Right.
But the songs he co-wrote on that, the songs he co-wrote on Lick It Up. Mm-hmm. And then when they kicked us in the nuts again in the 90s and put Revenge out, he wrote some of the kick-ass songs on there too.
Oh, dude, that's their best album.
I mean,
I digress.
I've always been a fan of Vinny. I feel sad that he catches so much shit from people about how he looks, and is like, you know what?
I agree.
In this so-called, we're supposed to be a tolerant society, there sure are people that don't mind giving him all kinds of fucking bullshit.
Man, there ain't nobody in this world that seems tolerant.
His playing is just sick.
And you know what, too?
He's ridiculous.
If you just look at, Lick It Up by itself, but you also take in the two Vinnie Vincent Invasion albums.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think are incredible albums. I mean, it's just, for the guy to take the heat, like Doug said that he has, it's really undeserved. And in a lot of cases, as fans, we tend to look at the exterior part of it, the superficial pieces, instead of really looking at, hey man, this guy wrote some damn good music here. And to be able to write for a band at that caliber.
Oh yeah.
You're pretty damn good. So yeah, that's
the only thing that happens with Vinny, though, is Vinny kind of shoots himself in the foot with a lot of the other stuff that he does. It's like when you have a meet and greet and you charge astronomical fees, or, you cancel so many events, and, the things that he does that kind of make him, I guess, like, for lack of better terminology, trying to think about, I don't know, an eclectic kind of cat. I think that's where a lot of the grief comes in. It almost seems like every time that he puts 1 foot forward or 2 feet forward, then he takes one step back. And that's where I think the grief comes from. I don't care how the guy looks, or any of that stuff. That don't mean shit to me. But you just kind of wish that he just seems like you almost wish like he would just endear himself to the fans a little bit more.
Yeah, especially after being out of the picture for over 20 years. No one. I mean, he was basically like kind of like a Vito Bratta, just off the radar altogether.
Yeah, I agree. And to get back to to what we were talking about, the 10 albums. I mean, we talked about a few here, but man, there's so many on this list that I think they deserve just as much credit as all the other ones. I mean, you think about and the one that always stands out to me is Iron Maiden's Peace of Mind.
Oh.
That album, and John, I mean, I'll tell this story. We're going to a, man, I got to say it. We're going to an art gallery in Cleveland for a high school
name for a strip club, is it?
No.
Okay.
Not for a couple of 15 or 16-year-old kids, no.
Yeah, this is it. Okay. This is high school, man. So we
stand corrected.
We're going on a field trip.
I was thinking the same thing.
So this field
gallery, strip club.
Hey,
we leave at what time did we leave, John? Like 4:00. I mean, it was early in the morning. We met at the school.
Yeah, it was early. I want to say it was like, it was probably about 5:30 or so in the morning. So it was early.
We're sitting together on a school bus. Now, this is 5:30 in the morning, and he has his boom box there. And of course, we're not listening to anything light. It's not like any lullabies or anything. And, like all the girls are sitting around us and, people from the class and they're trying to read and stuff. And so the first one we throw in is Peace of Mind. At 5:30 in the morning on a school trip. And I remember this girl tapping him on the shoulder and saying, "Can you turn that down?" He looks over at me and he turns it up. So that is, like I said, the memories that I have with this guy and this music, though. But that album, I mean, with just so many great songs on it. I can't even. I think of like Where Eagles Dare.
Revelation.
Great tune. I mean,
I'm
Go ahead,
a
John.
Flight of Icarus guy myself.
That's a great song. I don't think you could say one song and I would disagree with it.
Absolutely.
As a matter
I
of
mean,
fact, I think my older brother Sean, who anyway, he's the one that got me into the music. He got into metal, he got me into metal, and then he started listening to punk, and then moved on to alternative, new wave, whatever that was called back then. But Flight of Icarus is the first song. We were at a flea market. I bought an Iron Maiden T-shirt, and I'm like, I didn't know who they were. All I knew it was the most badass artwork, and it had blood, and it had an axe. I think it was the Killers album cover. Anyway, I'm like, but if people ask me, what do I tell them my favorite song? And he's like, tell them Flight of Icarus. So it'll start a whole conversation. He was fucking right.
That's it. That's
But
a great
I
song.
really
That's
had
a
to
great
do my
story.
homework and catch up because there were the 2 Di'Anno albums and then Number of the Beast. And then, so great album. I don't think they have a bad album, though, honestly. What's up, Rooster?
I'd be
Just
a
quick
huge
shout outs
poser.
to everybody. Carrie Sheree, who is the girlfriend of Sam Spade. They're watching. Ann Melvin, Nitro J, Robin.
Bring them on, Doug. I'm
Rooster
trying to look
Joden
at the
are
list too,
watching.
man.
Again, thanks for being with us, everybody. So far, I don't see any questions, but just people wanting us to know they're here. So,
Yeah, I threw it out there to see what kind of questions we got.
Carrie Boyce is on.
Hey,
I would be
Carrie.
a huge liar and a poser if I wore an Iron Maiden T-shirt. Quite honestly, I'm not saying that I was just never into them when I was younger. And it seems to me, and I mean, I know some of their songs like Flight of Icarus, and Under the Hills, 666. I know all that stuff. It was just, to me, that was just heavier than what I listened to. For me, I was like the Def Leppard, Rat, Motley Crue, Kiss. Those were like my bands. And, but it just seems to, I mean, I appreciate what they do. It seems to me they're more popular now than they were in the early 80s. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know. But they always did have some really killer artwork. But I think if I would have been strutting around Youngstown wearing an Iron Maiden shirt, I'd have been a complete poser. Someone would have been like, "Oh yeah, Maiden, dude." And I'd have been like, yeah. So, I mean, but
Yeah, but that's good to have that opinion because everybody isn't going to like all the same things, but it's appreciated for what you do, because
someone
I
just
kind
asked
of
me to go ahead. I'm so sorry.
no, go ahead, Mike.
Someone asked me recently if I'd be interested in being in a Maiden tribute band, and I just said, you know what, man, it's not that I'm sure I could learn the parts. I said, but again, I just never grew up really like a massive fan of Iron Maiden, which probably, I know like when, Roy and I have conversations about music, Roy's like, Mac, that really kind of disappoints me a little bit that you're not a fan of Iron Maiden. but
You sound just like him, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, I've been practicing that. No, he said he I don't know if he likes that or not. I'm just waiting for the punch in the face the next time he sees me. But I wish I can get into him a little bit more, and maybe over time I would. But I was like, when they asked, I was like, probably not the best pick for you, man, because I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm not going to be able to do that music justice because it's just not right there. Not saying they're not good. It's just not my thing.
No, I get it because I catch the same kind of hell for not ever being into Motley Crue or say Ozzy, even though the album on this list is probably, to me, one of his best. I know
Right.
people would be like, "Oh my God, you can't talk." It's not that I don't love what he did with Randy Rhoads, but to me, Jake E. Lee is one of my favorite guitarists
Wow.
ever. So
And really,
Wasn't
that
he the
album,
original guitar player in Rat?
I believe
Wasn't
so.
Jake E. Lee the original guitar player in Rat?
I think he was one of them. Yeah.
he
I think
was.
he was there before Robin Crosby joined, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was like the split right there because when he joined Ozzy, that was what George Lynch was actually
Mhm.
picked to be an Ozzy at that point.
Wow.
Yeah, they had him.
Wow.
They had him. He was all set to go. I mean, he was ready to go, and the main reason is because he didn't have the look. That was, like he told me in the interview. He said he had the short hair because he was a delivery driver.
Hmm.
So he had to do that for work. So he didn't have the look, and he kind of got, pushed out for Jake. I mean, and then you look at the two. I mean, if I look at the two, I mean, obviously Lynch is my favorite out of both of them. I think just for the things that he does, the different styles and the different, the guy's a very diverse player, compared to
For
Jake.
sure.
But if you look at Jake in Bark at the Moon, I mean, that song Bark at the Moon is, needless to say, it's iconic. And it's actually one of the, not only the baddest ass riffs, of the era, but the solo too is just sick. And I think that's really what really put Jake, in the upper echelon of guitar players at that point. What do you guys think?
I agree. That is, to me, the best Ozzy riff of all time. Like I said,
Really?
that's just because, people are like, "Oh my God," but what about Randy Rhoads? Yeah, dude, I'm not putting any shade on that dude whatsoever, but I just like the whole vibe with Jake E. Lee and everything. He was with him for what, 2-3 albums after that?
I think it was 2. I know he was at Ultimate Sin and he was Bark at the Moon. I'm not sure if he was with.
So Ultimate Sin would have been his last one. Then
Yeah, he was with 2, and then
Zach Wild.
Yeah, Zach stepped in, and you know what? Going off the chart here a little bit, off of what the conversation is about, but I remember going to see Zach on that first tour. Anthrax opening. I mean, Zach tore it up with the Randy stuff. I mean, that's really that was his platform right there to showcase himself, to go on from Ozzy and do the things that he's doing right now, because that's really what put him over the top and got him the audience that he has right now.
Hey, John, I'm going to
go ahead,
hop
John.
off here real quick. I'm going to come right back on. I'm just going to switch over to my computer.
All right, John, no problem, man.
All right.
we'll see you in a
We'll
minute,
watch for
bro.
you. See you, brother.
Yeah, I was always more of a Randy Rhoads guy.
Yeah, me too.
That's just he just caught the vibe for me a little bit more. I mean, Jake E. Lee's a great guitar player. Those albums are really cool. But for me, man, it's like when you just hear, those first 2 albums, Blizzard and Diary, you're like, wow, that was just game changing. And it was really kind of cool that Ozzy.
Hey. Sorry. I can't hear anything.
No, go
It
ahead,
was
Mike.
really kind of cool that
What's
Ozzy had the
going on?
foresight to know. He was like, okay, the era of the Guitar Hero is upon us, because Van Halen had just come out. And to Ozzy's credit, man, he always had the best guitar players, and the coolest ones are actually born on January 14th. I'm not going to tell you what Zach Wild's birthday is, but Zach Wild and I share the same birthday, so.
I'm having
Nice.
issues.
That's cool. That's cool. And I agree with you on that too, Mike. I mean, Randy Rhoads is, upper echelon. I mean, that's, you're looking at him, Eddie Van Halen. I mean, guys that man, these guys are the best of the best. And Randy,
For sure.
For all of us, I remember when, listening to Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman when those two came out. And that was like kind of like right along with Back in Black in that era. So I was listening to a lot of AC/DC. And then obviously those 2 Ozzy albums are just it's sick, the guitar playing and the skills that guy had. But I think the biggest thing for me in what Randy had was not only the charisma, but the feeling that the guy played with. I mean, the emotion in the notes and the way he projected, that type of playing out for the, that genre, man, was just ridiculous. And the way he projected, that type of playing. I'm getting feedback on you, John. That genre, man, was just ridiculous. I mean, I wanted to hear what I sounded like.
He's got his volume up. That's why.
If you had a question as to what you sounded like, now you know.
It's causing a little bit of a delay.
That's what I was waiting for.
John, you're disrupting the class, man.
I took a peek at some of the comments, and there was a fellow by the name of Jess Sema who said, "Just joined, but from a marketing standpoint, lick it up. Band was faltering. Best way to get the popularity back: take the makeup off."
There we go.
He's not wrong. It was a definitely a big moment for the band. Might have been bigger if it was with all the original members, but at the same time, yeah, it didn't really matter. It was great. I still remember watching it. Waiting, sitting there for it was JJ Jackson. I think it was interviewing him. You're like you just like waited with bated breath. I lived with my grandmother and my grandfather. They're like, we want to change the channel. I'm like, no, you're not.
That was a big deal. That was a big deal.
I'll do whatever chores you need.
Out of all the bands that we talk about, I mean, that band with the marketing and the things that they did, I mean, everything was timed to perfection.
Yeah.
And when this album came out, I remember my song was $1,000,000 to 1.
I still love that one. That's
still
my favorite ballad from them.
I just think that the way that those guys delivered it, and Paul Stanley with those vocals, it was just it was a perfect time for that. And honestly, guys, when I look at Kiss pre-makeup or Kiss in the makeup and then post, when they took the makeup off and everything else, I think that the stuff in the 80s was their best music.
Yeah,
I mean,
I have to 100% agree.
I mean,
They've got some great albums from the 80s.
They really did.
I mean,
the
lineup I identify with was Gene, Paul, Eric, and Bruce. I mean, I saw them for the first time. My first concert was Animalize, and I saw them. I didn't live anywhere where the Revenge tour came, so. But that's the Kiss I identify with. It was great getting to see them put the makeup back on and seeing the 4 original members a couple times. That was obviously one of the highlights of my life because they, to me, sounded better than they ever did back in the from what I've heard of live stuff from the 70s. But
met Bruce Kulick outside the Whiskey, and I was like, "Oh, dude, 80s Kiss, man, I love it." He's like, "Yeah, me too."
Yeah, they put out so many. That's just an iconic band. It doesn't seem like no matter what they do, it's always, it's going to get attention. It's always going to be marketed properly. But we look back at this list of albums, and there was a few that we haven't discussed yet, and there's obviously 2 that really stand out to me, and number 1 to me that stands out. One of the 2 is Pyromania, and and I think really what that album did was Def Leppard didn't only have the great songs, I mean, with the big hooks and the heavy choruses, but it was just that at that time, I mean, you were singing along with this stuff, Photograph, and it's just an awesome song. I mean, I can't say enough about that album either because it really changed, melodic hard rock forever. Because that was the one that really brought, hey, the big hook is here, the big chorus is here, the massive production with Mutt Lange. That's really what. Yeah. That's the one that shot it. That shot them to the top. Even though I think High and Dry obviously is their best album, just in my opinion. But
I don't know. "Foolin'" is my favorite Def Leppard song to this day. I just love how they arranged it. It was like the perfect song. Still my favorite.
It is.
And I've never seen them play live, believe it or not. To this day,
I haven't either, Doug.
Really?
And I'll have
Yeah, that's one of the
What,
few
Def
I haven't
Leppard?
seen. Man, nope.
I've seen them like 2 or 3 times. The biggest, they're a great show, fun. The last time I saw them, or the last couple times I saw them, one time they opened for Kiss, and then the other time it was Def Leppard, Tesla, and Styx. The only letdown for me from at a Def Leppard show is, man, they really don't play a lot of their earlier material. They play Bring It On the Heartbreak and Off High and Dry, and that is it. The rest of it is, your Let's Get Rocked, or something off Hysteria, and that's probably like the biggest letdown for me. Is I'd like to see them play a little bit of the heavier stuff.
Yeah.
But it's
I
like
agree.
they come out, they pretty much play Hysteria. The soccer moms go crazy, and
Yeah, that's and I know a lot of people, they're listening in, friends of mine and everything. I thought once Hysteria hit, and after the song Women, I was just kind of like,
Yeah.
I want to hear the heavy stuff. I want to hear High and Dry. I want to hear, I want to hear Mirror Mirror. I want to hear, just stuff like that. And that to me is Def Leppard. I don't want to hear the, bebopping, let's get to the radio and stuff like that. I mean, I still love the band, obviously, and I feel the same way about Bon Jovi. I mean, those first 2 Bon Jovi albums to me are
Amazing.
just incredible albums. I mean, the songs and that was a band that I was like, man, this is cool. And I got to see them, right on their first tour, and it was different. I mean, once they got to that point to where they broke, that's kind of like where I was like, I like the songs, but I want to have that band where, the popularity's not there so much, and they're playing to, what the record company wants, and getting out there and saying, hey man, we got to play for the radio. I kind of lost it after that. I don't know how you guys feel.
I can't stand Adrenalize. I'll say that. Hysteria, they rode that album for what, over 5 years?
Yeah.
I mean,
It took them that long to record it. Yes.
But I mean, once they released it, they rode that album hard for all those singles that came off of it, all the videos that came off of it. And, by the time, God, what song is that? Armageddon It. I can't stand to even hear that song now.
I can't even stand that you even said it. That's how much I can't even stand it.
That was because I've never been into that song, man. The fact that the MTV and the radio played it so much, it's like, God, turn that shit off. And then by the time Adrenalize came out, I was like, okay, I think we're done here, But they did have stuff that came out after that I kind of liked.
Remind me to send you guys. I've got a demo of Rob Kane from Love and Chains and from Apocalyptic Lovers. I've got a demo of us playing Mirror Mirror. We were asked to do. There was like a Def Leppard tribute album that another label was doing. We were asked if we would be interested in it. We sent them Mirror Mirror. Oh no, somebody's doing that song. So we sent them another song. No, we don't want that song. Can you do this instead? Be like, you know what? We're good. We're great. You do your thing. We'll do ours. But
right.
I'll send you that so you guys can catch a listen. I think you guys might dig it.
What did they want you to do?
That's a great song.
I can't even remember, man. It was just like they asked us to do like 2 or 3 different songs, and it just got to a point where it's like, okay, we were doing our best to make you guys happy, and it just didn't seem like everything we chose just wasn't working out. So it was like, I'm like, you know what, man, do your thing. God bless. Wish you the best of luck. I hope it comes out awesome for you. And we're just going to, we recorded it, and we're probably going to put it out here. We're talking about putting it out either on the next album, or we might even just throw like a one-off out there for fun. But we had a blast recording it. We wish we could have been a part of that thing, but it just wasn't working. I wanted to let you guys know, there's a question about your label on here from Steve Minton. And it says, if RFL Records was around 40 years ago and had a chance to sign any of these bands, who would it be and why?
That's a great question, Steve.
First thing I want to say to that, Steve, is I fucking wish we had this kind of thing back then, because
I
this
agree.
would be a whole different story right there.
Steve, I mean, to answer your question, I mean, I look at this whole list right here, and you know, if you want to look at who's going to have the staying power, and I don't, when I went through any of the stages of signing any of the bands that we signed, it wasn't the fact that, hey, I was looking for who was going to be the big hit, who was going to have the hit song or anything. It was always about the music and about what we thought was the cool stuff. I mean, and we'd always tell the bands that too, was the fact that, hey, look, we're not signing you guys because of what it's going to be as a benefit for us. We're signing it because, you know, we like your music and we like you as people. And that was the thing that kind of really stood out for me, you know, for any of these guys. And I'll tell you the truth, man, that's probably the hardest question I've ever been asked. But when I look at this list, and this is crazy, the band that I would sign right now out of all these guys is definitely Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden has brought so many people from so many different, you know, lifestyles and so many different generations and carried them. And they've continued, you know, like Mike said earlier, to be successful all the way from back when they started. I mean, through the Di'Anno days with Dickinson, even Dickinson leaving, which I thought was a horrible mistake. So I'm so glad they brought him back. But, you know, I just think, yeah, they had to. But if I was going to sign a band based on all of that, it's those guys. I mean, I love their music, and I love the professionalism that they bring. And I think that's one of the things that you could really put in the forefront of this. I mean, Kiss has the, you know, obviously the same following, the same thing. But I just think for me, Maiden is just my band. I think that's the best heavy metal band of all time. And I'm not saying, you know, hair metal or including any of that, but I'm just saying heavy metal itself, to me, is Iron Maiden. It's the professionalism, it's the songwriting, it's the longevity, it's everything that they bring to the table. And you never hear any of these guys going off the rails. You hear people that are just straight laced. They go out there and they
seem like normal guys.
That's it, and that's the reason I would definitely sign them. As much as I love all these other bands, it's a hard question, but they are, to me, the complete package.
See, and that's the thing. John and I usually agreed on 85 to 90% of the time. For me, this answer to this question, all these kick-ass albums that we're talking about, the one band that sticks out that I would sign because they had balls this big would be Twisted Sister. They were the hungriest of all of this.
That was my second, Doug.
They were like a fucking musical bulldozer. If you get in our way, we're going to fucking roll over you. And to me, that would be the band that would, you know what, stand behind these fuckers, because here they come.
You know, really, and their sound too. I mean, I just, it almost makes me, you know, it pisses me off completely when I hear people that blast Twisted Sister. Because, like you said, Doug, I mean, those guys had the guts to do it, but they didn't, you know, the look obviously was there, but man, they stood behind everything that they did. That was a powerhouse from start to finish. And I credit all of that, obviously, to Dee Snider. When Dee Snider came into that band, that was what put him over the top. You know, JJ French, obviously, you know, and the things that he did to start it. I mean, fantastic. They never get the credit that they deserved. But like I said, when the people that are in the know that actually saw that band and know the story, and I love that band. I mean, that is my top 2 favorite bands of all time. And it's because of what they stood for. And I mean, they really transcended a lot of things here too, because they had the melody. They had the poppy songs and stuff, obviously, but man, they really got you into the music. If you're a Twisted Sister fan, you were in it for life.
Yeah,
You were a part of that.
There was nothing like seeing these big beastie motherfuckers singing "Leader of the Pack." I mean, dude.
Exactly.
And the thing about it is they started around the same time Kiss did, but they had to claw their fucking way out of New York and all around the New York City, that whole area. They had to claw their way to make it, and they almost didn't. So yeah,
right. They had a lot of bad luck going in there. I mean, signing that deal, and then the guy passed away, and just the whole story. But if you would have thought, if these record people were smart enough to do that when those guys were selling out those shows in New York, I mean, everything that they did was a sellout. You had to be stupid not to sign them. So them getting that kind of, say, late start was really a shame. How about you, John? I mean, what do you think about, if all right, let's put it out there. I mean, now that we got the question, if you were a record label, who would you sign out of this group?
Shit, it would probably still have to be Kiss. I mean, overall, they've had the longevity, and their sound has changed with the times so much.
Right.
That, that's probably one of the big reasons they have had the staying power they had. I mean, even through all the different iterations, like Doug is saying, he came into it with Bruce Kulick and Eric Carr. I kind of did too. I had friends that listened to them before that, and because DVE sucks, you didn't get to hear a whole lot of it.
Right.
Now, do you remember the old DVE commercials back in the day? Oh, the metal's gone, great rock lives on, and they showed him throwing away Gene Simmons' solo album in the dumpster.
I remember that. I remember that now.
Such a load of shit. It wasn't even funny because they still played it. It was like a gimmick or something. I don't know, but it was such a turnoff that I gave up on DV.
Yeah, because you could turn it on. You could turn it on at any given point of the day and hear fucking Pink Floyd or some kind of old
Led Zeppelin and Skynyrd. I mean,
see, I love
Zeppelin. Against those band, but
I just cannot stomach Pink Floyd. I never have been able.
I'm with you on that too.
I don't get it.
Do you remember?
They make me comfortably numb. I'm sorry.
I remember that. I agree.
Mentally numb.
Yeah, that's
the commercial they did that they used to play on the radio whenever they'd start off with one of these old bands. They'd come in and Woodstock, and it was like, click, the radio station right there. I don't want to hear Jefferson Starship or Airplane or whatever they are. I don't want to hear Joan Baez. I don't care about any of that.
That's the same thing, John. Is you can't do like they did. They did one thing, and then they tried to pose as, hey, look, DVE. As soon as I saw DVE was sponsoring that Iron Maiden show when we walked into the arena for the tour, I said, "You kidding me?" I said, "I can't believe that they would actually put a sign up like that and say we're going to sponsor Iron Maiden, and we play like one song every 10 years."
Exactly.
It's just, I think it's just really the way radio is. It's just why it's a dying breed.
You guys remember calling in with a request?
Yeah.
So I did that all the time when I knew they were sponsoring, like say Wasp was coming to town or something. Like, hey, can you play Wasp? Yeah, we'll try to get to that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're gonna need you to hang up the phone now.
I had much greater fortune than you guys because while you guys were your Pittsburgh guys, I had the good fortune to be able to listen to DVE, WMMS, or WSRD from my hometown in Youngstown. And when I wanted a request and I called into SRD, I would just wait for a Thomas John show because I was Thomas John's paper boy.
Nice.
You had an in. That's nice.
Hey, Thomas, could you play some Kiss? Yeah, I'll play it.
That's nice.
it's Mike, your paper boy. Will you play some Motley Crue?
You know, but what was nice back in the 80s, I mean, we had K-Rock. I don't know if you guys know. I know
K-Rock
John
was so
remembers
badass.
that. I mean, we had
Wasn't
Chris
that an
DiCarlo.
AM station?
I think it was, but I
I
mean,
think
Yeah.
K-Rock was AM. And
No.
I'm telling you, they played. That's where I heard some of the crazy. That's the first time I ever heard Merciful Fate or King Diamond, and I'm like, what the
Right.
fuck is this crazy shit?
and they were
Yeah.
playing like obscure stuff too. I mean, it was like a station that was like, I remember I heard Le Mans. I don't know if you guys
I
remember
was about
those
to
guys.
say Le Mans.
That's a great song. And
And
at
that-
Pittsburgh,
there was-
guys, 313. And just
Icon.
cool
It was the
stuff
first
like
time I
that.
heard Icon. Icon was so badass back in the day.
That was a great band. That's an absolute great band. Totally underrated. You know, we got off track a little bit here, but what did we miss here? I mean, I'm looking at what's up under my, I don't even know what's behind my chair, man. What
Well,
did we miss?
AC/DC, which
Well,
I'm honestly not familiar with that album at all.
Look at the Switch.
Truth
Look at the
be
Switch.
told, it's just not one that I like the Bon Scott stuff, and I just lost. Now I would love to see AC/DC, what's left of them, but that album, I don't even know what's on that album. You guys educate me here because I really
think
don't
it
know.
is Inject the Venom on that album.
You know what? Let me
It's
look at the
been-
track list. I mean,
it's
I love the
been
song
a
Flick of
minute.
the Switch, but I
Yeah.
can't think of everything. I think really what
Or
happened
is
here
that-
with this one, I mean, yeah, it's on the list. And it's a list that I pulled out of the classic rock, one of the classic rock websites, because they're commemorating all these albums. But I think what happened right there is they did that after Highway to Hell, Back in Black came out, and and that's obviously an album that just shot them to the top.
I
And
think
then-
it was.
It was
Yeah,
almost
go ahead.
something. It was almost something to where we couldn't even compete with this, and everybody was so high on Back in Black. So you had to come out with For Those About to Rock, Flick of the Switch. It kind of, it almost seemed like they were trying to, to beat what they already did. But once you set the bar that high with Back in Black and how that took off, I kind of think
the
that's
most
why.
perfectly produced album.
Yeah,
ever.
it's just
Yeah,
really.
funny. It's again going back to Kiss. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Animalize. I love a few of the songs. But to me, there's no way they were going to be able to recapture what they did with Lick It Up. There was no way.
No.
Yeah.
No.
The only songs that I can recall, because I just snuck a peek at the track list. The only songs I could really recall that I kind of dug, of course, the song "Flick of the Switch" and "Rising Power." I was wrong. I think the other song I mentioned might have been on another. I think it was "Fly on the Wall" or something like that. But yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah, that 2 album. They just AC/DC had some really great albums, and like you said, you come out with Highway to Hell, you come out with Back in Black, you come out with For Those About to Rock. It's and then there's a different. It almost felt like there was a different wave of music that was coming in right as they were coming out with Flick of the Switch. That's when your Motley Crue came out. That's when your Motley Crue, Rat, and that LA Invasion just really started to come come to fruition. And I think that might be like right around the time the AC/DC albums were just, I don't want to say forgotten because I don't think they were, but they might have been lost in the shuffle a little bit because people were, kind of turned on to a different sound.
I agree. You know what? I was just looking at the list again, guys, and I want to finish with Quiet Riot because
we never hit Dio.
That was what I was just bringing up. Dio Holy Diver.
That could be a whole conversation in itself.
Yeah,
I don't think we
that's,
hit Motley Crue either. I don't think we hit the shirt that you're wearing.
Yeah, we didn't discuss that deep enough, so we need to get into that. So let's start with Dio.
I'm okay not talking about that album.
Here, I'm just
probably
going
their
to
last-
remove him. I'm going to remove him from the stream, and then.
Oh man!
Well, it's all right. It's all right.
He's my buddy, man. I love Doug, so we do this all the time, man. So it's a fun show. But Dio Holy Diver, guys. I mean,
Okay, so here we go. Yes.
what could you? Number one, this guy is the voice of metal.
For
I mean, if
sure.
you ever tied a voice to a certain genre of music, it's Ronnie James Dio. I mean, this guy was the best of the best, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen him live, but I got
Never
to
got
see him
to.
with I got to see him. It was Motorhead, Dio, and Iron Maiden. That was the show,
That's just sick.
Wow.
and I've never seen anybody sound so good live as a frontman. I mean, he's the guy that he's the statue that we put up when we say this is heavy metal, this is hard rock. It's Ronnie James Dio, and if there ever was a guy that I would like to bring back for this genre of music, it's him. I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, Holy Diver, obviously, awesome album. I mean, the sound and it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
What do you guys think?
You look at the track list of that album and you're like, okay, is there a song that Jorn Lande has not covered off of that album? I mean,
Right.
it's a monster album. The guitar playing on there is unreal. Don't ask me why, because I know they came out right around the same time. But if I listen to that album, for some reason or another, I almost always follow it up by listening to the debut from Vandenberg. But
That's a great album. Oh
yeah,
man, I love that album.
but
I've been listening to those guys forever. But go ahead, Mike.
yeah, it's just again, there's certain albums when you listen to it, you listen to songs. I mean, just take the most obvious, take Rainbow in the Dark. You listen to that guitar solo, and you're like, okay, yeah, this is why I want to be a guitar player. It's because it just wreaks havoc. It wreaks havoc on your soul. There's no other better way to say it. And it's like, that's again, Dio had the presence of mind to know, like Ozzy, that the Guitar Hero was going to be the wave of the future. And he picked one of the best.
Yeah, he had that knack to take a nobody that nobody knew and make him a superstar in his band.
And you know who saw Dio perform live a whole bunch of times? A fella by the name of Roy Cathy, who toured with Ronnie James. So I mean, he always he mentions that was just like a great experience. So
I can tell you guys a little confession here. To this day, if I have earbuds or headphones on and I listen to Holy Diver, it makes me jump every time when it goes from the music and into that opening guitar riff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you got it turned up the whole way, and then it kind of just fades into it. And every time that I jump every time. It's like, oh fuck, I know it's coming, but I still jump every time.
It's got a fresh, dark sound to it too.
Right, John.
It wasn't the kind of poppy, happy that
Not at
kind
all.
of was prevailing in the time. It was dark. It was a lot like the Bark at the Moon or even like Shot at the Devil to a point. I mean,
Right.
But it embraced that, and it was something so different. And like you said, his voice, oh my God, and it didn't diminish over the years. A couple of years
when
before he died, we saw him at Star Lake with Motorhead, Judas Priest, and Testament. And that was
man, I didn't get to see that one.
Absolutely incredible. And he sounded just as good as he did the first time I saw him.
Yeah, the guy, you mentioned that, John, the dark piece of it. He brought the Sabbath and the Rainbow into Dio, and he took it to a whole new level as far as, production and, and the guitar playing. And the guy was just he's a genius in my book. And,
Absolutely.
And that's the only way I'll ever think of him. And, I just, to have that album on this list, and it's tough. I mean, we see what everybody here is saying and everybody in the list is saying about how difficult it is to pick a favorite here.
Yeah, I actually wish that Westlake was on here for this conversation, because there's no bigger fan or friend to Ronnie James Dio than Jeff Westlake. He has some great stories of him.
Right. I mean, Jeff, obviously, Jeff, if you're listening, man, we love you, brother. We really do. I don't even know if we could even, say enough to compliment what Dio did, for making all this happen. I mean, that album, obviously, but, his whole career. and the type
Right.
of person that he was too. I
Yeah.
mean, I think
And
that's really
see,
what
that's-
put him above.
I've never met anybody that met him that ever had anything negative to say about him.
And that's what
Mhm.
makes a a true icon and a true he's an ambassador for this music, and I'm sure everybody would even say that,
Yeah.
even more so than Ozzy or any of these guys. We were just talking about Dio and Holy Diver. I mean, and everything that we think about that album. So now that Mike brought up, Shout at the Devil, we need to talk about. And like I said, the first time I heard it, was obviously Too Young to Fall in Love and the video and everything.
Love that
But
song.
If you really, think about the coolness of what that band brought at that time. I mean, if not only the those songs that they released as singles, but like Red Hot and a song like that. I mean, with the drums kicking in, and you just start, you know what you get out of those guys. It's a great album the whole way through. What do you guys think of that? I mean, it's obviously well deserved to be in the top of this list. What do you guys think about it?
I'll say this, being not the most major Motley Crue fan ever, to me, it's the last great album they put out. Great. Obviously, to me, Too Fast for Love is the best thing they ever did, to me, in my opinion. That is one of the best debut albums in rock history to me. And
Right.
maybe that's why I kind of get down on them, because they just like took this massive. Those two albums came out. They had the look. They're like, oh shit, we're gonna scare the fuck out of your parents. And then they went and did their sound kind of softened. Their look got more. And to me, I just kind of they after Shout at the Devil, they lost me.
Yeah, Theater of Pain wasn't my favorite either. Didn't mind Girls, Girls, Girls. Didn't mind Dr. Feelgood. But Theater of Pain, it came out and it was like, okay. And then I saw it and I'm like, oh, really? In the video. I was like, wow, okay. You guys went from pentagrams to like Pink. I'm like, what in the hell happened? Really?
Glam.
Yeah, oh.
Well, I get,
Glam
but
happened.
I love the glam look, but to me, their sound just went to hell to me.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, certain bands can deal with the glam look and kind of fit into that. And I never put Motley Crue in that kind of category, though.
No, me
You
neither.
know, like you said, Too Fast for Love, all those songs. Come on. And then you go Theater of Pain.
See,
Home was just, it's one of
Yeah,
the most
see-
overplayed, sickening.
here's what I say, guys. I say take Home Sweet Home out of the mix. If you take those stage outfits and you put that back on Shout at the Devil, I mean, look at the track list here, man. Keep Your Eye on the Money, Raise Your Hands to Rock, and my favorite's Tonight We Need a Lover. I think that I'm with Mike on this. I think Theater of Pain is a great album that was poorly. They should have kept the look and not kind of switched to that glam part. I think that was a bad look. But I thought that was a great album, man. I can't say it. I think it was good.
Smoking in the Boys' Room to me was like
Yeah.
the down. I like Louder Than Hell. I thought that song is
Yeah.
actually really
Good tune.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you take away,
I'm not
the
really
look,
putting Theater of Pain down. It's just, to me, Shout at the Devil was the last great album where you can't really pick a filler. You can't really pick a bad song. Whereas everything they did after that, you're like, yeah, filler. Yeah, filler. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
to
gotta
me,
say-
Doug, I mean, I actually liked Theater of Pain more than Girls, Girls, Girls or Feel Good. Because I don't know, I think that they, even though this, the look was glammy and they may have changed, a little bit, I think that's really what took it away from the way everybody portrayed the band. If they would have just kept that look, that tough aggressiveness to them, and brought that out, and then take out, Home Sweet Home, which, I know that a lot of people, think it's a great song and everything, but to me, I'd rather put my head in a glass of water, than listen to it.
That's how I feel about that and Smoking in the Boys' Room. It was like when I hear that opening, something I'm like, oh God.
See, that's why we went from calling them Motley Crue to calling them Chicks with Dicks.
Well,
Oh my goodness.
too, and going back to it, that's also the time that was when Vince, around that same time, Theater of Pain was when he was in the accident.
Yeah.
Is when they just started becoming, to me, royal assholes. I just never really thought they were cool guys,
No, I felt the same way, Doug.
I'll take the personality aspect of it out of it. Yeah. But it just, whether I got to take that part out of it, and I just have to focus on the music. To me, their shining moment actually is Shout at the Devil. That's, in my mind, by far their best album. I think the first three are fantastic. I actually like Theater of Pain. I'm probably I don't know if the reason why so many people dislike Home Sweet Home is probably for the same reason I probably am not. I'm not really high on it now. It was just, like so many other songs of the era it was popular, so it was overplayed. And I think you just might have you're like, oh my gosh, here it comes again. You got to a point where you just got tired of hearing it. You're whatever radio station you were listening to back in the day, you're like, oh my gosh, not again, please no. But as far as like the album itself, man, Shout at the Devil, from a good Catholic boy from Youngstown, man, when you're in the beginning, you're like, oh shit, it's crap out of you. But and then it just comes in with Shout at the Devil, and you're like, holy crap, this is just badass, and it kind of got, I went to a high school where everybody was like, Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA, all that kind of crap. If you liked metal, you were kind of like an outcast.
Yeah.
So, like, whatever, man. You go listen to your Born in the USA, and whatever, other little ditties you want to listen to. I'll listen to Motley Crue. I'll listen to Shout at the Devil. That's my jam.
Right.
So, great album.
Great album. I mean, it stands out. And last but not least, guys, I mean, this is what started it all. When Come On Feel the Noise came up, obviously, and the song Metal Health, Quiet Riot's the one to kick the door in. It might not have been the one that we all remember the most, but that's the one that I say that's the one that started it. That's the one that changed the way I looked at music. I mean, I was a huge fan of Boston. That's still one of my favorite bands of all time. I think those guys were severely underrated. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Mike. I mean, just
criminally.
I got to see the original lineup in when they came on the in 1987. They came to Pittsburgh, and my buddy Jared got us tickets. His mother worked for, I believe it was Mellon Bank. I'm not positive on it, but we sat up in the skybox.
Oh wow, nice.
And
nice.
That, if I have to say who the best sounding band I've ever seen, whether it be rock, metal, or anything, it was the original Boston. I mean, those guys just brought it. But when I was listening to Boston and that classic stuff at that time, and I heard Metal Health, actually, I mean, honestly, I didn't want to kind of go that way. You know what I mean? I didn't want to say, well, until I really listened to it, and I said, this is it. I see Kevin DeBro up there just crushing it, and Carlos Cavazo. The way those guys look, Frankie Banali and Rudy Sarzo. I mean, it's just it was a perfect lineup for a perfect time with two great songs that they launched.
Kevin was an amazing frontman. To see him live, he was one of the most, next to David Lee Roth, I have to say, probably one of the most entertaining frontmen to actually watch on stage. He's all over the fucking place, and he messes with people. He kind of makes fun of himself while he's on stage.
So here's a question for you. You're listening to a song like Let's Get Crazy. And he's like, I want to kiss the lips, not the ones on your face. Where you're like, what does he mean by that? When I first heard it, I was like, oh, it's like it rings. Oh, okay.
There you go. That's the inspiration for a band like Steel Panther right there.
you're like, oh my goodness, I know what he means now. He's a bad man.
See, was there ever a genre of music to where they use things like that? They would talk, in circles about things, and made you feel that way. But now it's just like everything's out front. I mean, you can just say what you want, basically.
There's no clever
exactly
use of language or
you could say
innuendos like there used to be.
That's the brilliance of it. Because if we look at all these albums and our the way we grew up and all these bands that came out at that time, I mean, and I say this from the heart that I feel that's the best era of music that there has ever been. I mean, because we had so much, we just didn't have this style of music. We had Quiet Riot, we had Motley Crue with that look, we had Iron Maiden doing the the power metal thing, we had Kill 'Em All and Metallica doing the thrash thing, Anthrax. All these bands were all different.
Yeah.
But, to me, they were all cool in their diversity. I mean, we had, the baddest ass music, and in my opinion, the best musicians in any era that's ever played.
Definitely. And the thing, you're talking about 83. We're talking about 83 right now. This was before everything got oversaturated with, oh man, we got to get the next Warrant out there. They signed this band to $1 million deal, whatever. And everybody, this era of the 80s, it didn't all sound the same. Like as it progressed into the mid and then late 80s, where everybody kind of had the same look. They had the same kind of hooks in their songs and all that. But this, there's so many different styles, and it was all so cool.
A couple of things before I hit point. I wanted to point out to Carrie Boyce. Carrie Boyce, she's 100% right. And by the way, what's up, Carrie? About Quiet Riot doing "Come On, Feel the Noise" and "Mama, We're All Crazy Now." Those were actually originally Slade tunes.
Right.
And they were great. The Quiet Riot versions of them were killer. For me, the best era of music is probably somewhere around like 1975 or 1976 to about the 10 to 12 years that followed. Even though a lot of some of my favorite bands, because you had like bands like Boston that came out in 1976. You had Van Halen that came out, 77 or 78, I think it was. I mean, and Van Halen is actually what started this whole thing. And it just kind of took a little while because after signing Van Halen, they blew up. They were awesome. People were digging them. What did the record world do? They came back to LA and said, you know what? Let's sign the Knack. And I'm not ripping on the Knack because I think they're killer, but I mean, dude, I actually dig them. I think they're a great band, but it's like they kind of held back that hard rock movement a couple of years because it kind of took them a minute, it seems like, to catch up and get it. Like, oh wait, this stuff can be popular. But then you get all these bands that came in, and you have all these great bands from everywhere. You have your bands, the Canadian bands. You have Kick-Axe, Honeymoon Suite, Brighton Rock. All these bands came in that era, like 83, 84, 85, 86. That was like the best era for me. It wasn't like the 70s or the 80s. It was kind of like a combination of the two.
Right.
Because there was and the musicians in the 70s were great. They were just a different style of musician. Those guys were, they were like chord masters. When you listen to them and their chord changes, and they had like key changes, all these things that they did that were just fantastic. That just kind of really showed off their musicianship. And then you get to the 80s, and those guys brought some of that with them, but then like the guitar players were just ungodly, and they were all inspired by the guys like Eddie and Randy, and they just brought it to another level.
Totally agree.
Yeah, that's where they said, okay, our music is centered around that guy.
Yeah, and to me, the 80s hard rock, a lot of it is just, and maybe it's because it's kind of like the way I write a lot of this way. I think it sounds just like 70s music on steroids. You know, you listen to a Boston album, you listen to a Journey album from the 70s, and then you listen to the bands that followed them, and it just kind of sounds like, yeah, they have that same melodic greatness to them, but it's just ballsier, you know, more distortion, a little bit more in your face.
Right. Yeah, that's perfectly put, Mike. Because I agree that era. That's you know, like you said, Boston, '76, and Journey. You know, and then Transcendent. And I think that the thing that's so great about that era of music is how it's had the staying power for so
Yeah.
many years. And you don't have, you know, bands like, I can't remember. I was talking to Robin McCauley. That's the interview that Robin and I were discussing. You know, how the bands of, you know, the 90s didn't have the staying power. I mean, you had a few of them, yeah. There was a few, that, you know, that are still around, still doing things. But, you know, you look at that era that you just mentioned right there, and these guys are still around. They're still doing things, and they're still bringing out, when they do bring out albums, great records.
Mhm.
You know, I look at, you know, I don't know if he's listening, but Reggie Wu and Heaven's Edge, you know, with their new album that comes out, you know,
Yeah.
on the 12th. It's guys like that are continuing to put that kind of music together. And if you listen to that album when it comes out on the 12th, it sounds just as good as it did in 1990. You know, there was no, hey, you know, we're going to take us to a different sound and we're going to try to be more commercial. We're going to try to touch, you know, this new audience. These guys just did what they did with a modern production and some kick in it. And it's really just, it's good. But like I said, the staying power is there. And I think that's one thing that we could say the most about that generation, that era, is these guys really cemented themselves
What's up, Bob Long?
in this music. So
Yeah, Bob Long's here. We could all
Bob
rest
Long is in
easy.
the
Bob
house.
Long is here. You know, it is amazing though. There's a lot of bands too. It seemed to me. I know, you know, since we've kind of completed the list of albums, some bands just seem to get better with age too. I mean, you look at bands like Winger, Extreme.
Firehouse.
Oh my, it's like Firehouse. I mean, but like Extreme, to me, they're better now than they were 30 years ago. And they weren't bad 30 years ago. I'm not saying that at all. They were a great band. It just seems like they took greatness and elevated it. And I like their new music probably just as much, if not more, than I like the stuff that I was listening to in my late teens and early 20s. Those guys are just phenomenal. And did you guys happen to see like the video footage of Nuno playing the solo to Rise on Monsters of Rock Cruise?
I did. It's ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
Great guitar
what
player.
I would not have been to be there just to watch that live. You know, it's like he's taken the mantle. It's almost like, you know, he's, you know, Eddie's kind of reached down from the heavens and said, all right, son, it's your turn. It's all you now. And he's just kind of taken it and run with it, man. He is so amazing. It's like, wow. I could probably practice that solo for like 6 months and still not get it right. I mean, that's just unreal shit. That guy's just awesome. Wow.
Yeah, he was always underrated. Another one you said, Monsters of Rock Cruise, is Red Beach from Winger.
That's my guy right there.
I think
that's your Pittsburgh guy right there.
That is, man.
I'm telling you, and I know you loved Lynch, but the time I saw Dokken,
John Levin
in Vegas with
Levin's a great player too.
with Reb on guitar.
Oh,
Reb is the absolute most amazing showman with a guitar. You'd think he's the front man.
That's my favorite. My favorite Dokken album is the one he was on.
They're just great stuff.
That's a great album, man. That's you know,
great stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that it kind of flies by, you know, and people just forget about it. But that's a solid album. Even the stuff Don has done with John Levin has been excellent.
John Levin's an amazing guitar player. John Levin I've seen him probably more times than I've seen George Lynch, and I've had the good fortune of seeing Dokken probably in the past couple of years, at least 3 or 4 times. And every time, man, Levin just blows you away because he's so good. and it just seems like he never hits a wrong note. He's just a really that his Dawkins' current band to me is just fantastic. I mean, you got BJ Zampa, you know, Chris McCarville, and Levin. It's like,
Okay.
really?
Yep.
Are you kidding me? And McCarville can get those. He can hit those high notes just like anybody. To me, that's just that his backing band is just wow. I mean, Dawkins now is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Chris sang in Jimmy Bell's band with BJ Max Explosion.
Explosion.
If you guys never heard of those guys, that's some good stuff right there. Nice guys too. I mean, Jimmy's a super nice guy.
Yeah,
Super nice guy. Underrated guitar player.
Oh yeah,
You know,
he's fantastic. He really is. Got to see him with
Really is.
Autograph when we played with him in Philly.
That's
and
cool.
At that point, you know, Jimmy and I had talked on the phone once or twice, you know, texted back and forth. We never really met in person. And I was like, Jimmy Bell. And he looks over, he goes, Mikey. It's like the night, like it comes up, gives you a big hug, like the, you know, friendliest dude, so humble. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
He's a cool
And
guy,
then-
man. Nice guy. Cool,
Yeah.
great guitar player, underrated.
For
But
sure.
you know, guys, we had a lot of good, you know, stories tonight. You know, you look back at 40 years and think, man, I can't believe it's been that long. But
Yeah.
you know,
Pretty crazy.
what's nice is when you look back at this stuff. I mean, it just feels like yesterday. It's a part of our lives. It's something that we can really look back on, all relate together, and even if we, none of us, even if none of us knew each other, but it's like, Mike is not part of this group. I mean, all he had to do was just come in. We're all united by this music and by, whether it be what album we like the best, whether it be Quiet Riot or Maiden or Crew,
Yeah.
Kiss, Twisted Sister, Metallica, any of those. We're all united by that one thing, and that's one thing that metal has always done. Again, that not many of these other ones have. They
Yeah.
brought a community together. They brought people together, and
Well, think about how many concerts we've all probably been at the same time back in the 80s. We just didn't know each other. You know,
Right.
how many times were you at a Kiss concert or Heart and Honeymoon Suite, and or Aerosmith, or we were probably all there. We'd probably walk by each other. What's up, dude? Just,
exactly.
Cool shirt, dude. Where'd you get
Yeah.
that?
Oh, bro, that's an awesome shirt, man. Yeah, for sure. And that was, and quite honestly, being from Youngstown, I could go anywhere to see shows. I'd go to Cleveland. They had some great shows at the State Theater in Youngstown, like Bon Jovi came there, Huey Lewis and the News, the Romantics, Night Ranger,
Good
all
stuff.
these bands came through Youngstown. But it's like, it seemed to me whenever my friends and I were going to go on, go on a concert trip, almost always it was a Civic Arena, almost always, and that was probably one of my favorite places to see shows.
Agreed.
And I think
I
it's just,
can still feel that building.
yeah, it was fantastic, man. Loved it.
There
Did you get-
was something
Yeah.
magical. Were you there, Mike, when Kiss came on the Animalized tour and the Transformer blew and we
Yep.
all had to
Oh no, that
wander
was,
around the streets of Pittsburgh waiting for our parents to come pick us up?
I was there.
That was Asylum.
I think it was
Dougie.
Asylum, though.
Asylum.
Yeah, it was Asylum.
86.
John and I were at that one.
That
Twice,
was my
actually.
that was my first show that I ever had floor seats. We weren't like
Funny-
right in that first section. We were the section behind it, but still being on the floor and looking up and seeing all
Yeah.
the whole fucking place going crazy.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And,
Couple of
and
friends of mine.
when they actually did have the show and Kicks opened,
Mhm.
that's the only time I've seen them.
Kicks is great.
They
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
fucking sick.
very good.
That was
Hey, I
like a
gotta
week
take
later
off,
that they played, right?
Sorry, I got to take off. I got to take care of my wife. So,
Oh, no problem,
It's
John.
good seeing you, John.
Hey,
Hope,
pleasure to meet
hope
you,
she
Bob.
feels
nice
better.
meeting you, Mike.
Yeah, tell Kara we hope she feels better, bud.
Pleasure to meet you, brother.
Thanks. You too, man.
Love you, brother. Take care, man.
Love you too, bro.
See you, bub.
Bye.
That show in Pittsburgh where the Transformer blew, we ran into some friends of mine, as we were walking around the streets of Pittsburgh, some guys from Youngstown. They're like, hey, dude, they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I think we're just going to head back to the we're going to go out. And they're like, come with us. We're going to go, we're going to go to a bar here in Pittsburgh. They ended up meeting Gene Simmons, they ended up meeting basically the band. And
Wow.
I went back to Youngstown, like, see him the next week. You know, we all hung out at the same spots. Like, bro, you should have came with us, man. I was like, you're like, oh, that sucks.
That's a tough
But,
one, man. That's
yeah.
really tough right there.
That's pretty painful, you know. But I've met, like I said, I had the good fortune of meeting so many people, especially, you know, you guys know, living out here, you know, you go to the whiskey and you're going to run into people. You know, ran into Joe Retta and Bruce Kulick in the same night. You know, got to chat with them
Yeah,
both.
that's cool.
I ran
and
into
not
this
really-
guy. I didn't even know it.
Oh yeah, I saw you up there. You're like, you know,
Native
Sons.
Sons in Sonora.
Yeah, talk about you know, bands that are killing it now. You know, that are young guys. Those two bands are just fucking kick ass. You know, the show that we did with Roxy, we were fortunate enough to co-headline with Roxy Blue, and I didn't think that was going to happen. You know, because
Great band.
JC had asked me. He said, "Hey man, do you think Roxy would want to, you know, do a headline gig with us at the Whiskey?" And I'm like, "Don't know, but I can ask." And so I thought Todd was going to say, "Nah, man." And he's like, "Hell yeah, dude! Never played the Whiskey." I was like, "What?" And I said, "Neither had I." But not Native Sons, excuse me. I'm so sorry. Lost Hearts called us like at the last minute. And they're like, "Hey, Mike, man, you know, do you think we can get on that gig?" And I was like, "You can," but I'm like, "You guys going to be going on super early." I'm like, because there's a lot of bands on already. But, you know, those guys came on, dude, and they went on early and they killed it. They were great. It's cool to see like those young up and coming bands, Native Sons, Lost Hearts, Zenora, so many of these guys. And it's just
hanging out with Zenora after that show. The oldest dude in that band is like 23, I think.
Yeah. I hate to say it, but the lead singer, man, every time I look at him, he reminds me of the guy from that 70s show.
Oh yeah, he's got the sideburns, Dylan is a super cool kid, and I'm telling you
cool,
what,
man.
he can play every friggin' instrument under the sun. He's gonna go on tour with Wild Street as their drummer over in Europe. So
that's
I'm like,
cool.
oh shit,
cool.
he plays drums too? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I was just wearing my Zenora shirt. I think it was yesterday or the day before. I got the one with the rose on it. It's really cool.
Yeah, my sister has that one. Who's watching? Miss Wendy is watching.
Hey Heather, hey Carrie, Rooster's out there. Jeff,
Heather's my favorite weirdo.
I loved Mean Mr. Mustards in Columbus, Ohio, said Carrie. I'd never been there. Can't say that I have. And
we
then,
came out to Cleveland, and I'm trying to remember the name of the venue. We came out to see Y&T. We drove 3 hours out there because I've never seen Y&T, and I'm trying to remember the name of the place. But man, that was when Phil Kennemore was still alive.
Fantasy Theater, maybe?
No, it was.
That's where I saw Fraley's Comet.
It was right outside. I'm trying to remember the name of the place now. I can't think of it.
I don't know. There's
a lot of good venues out there.
That's another killer band, though. Y&T.
Love Y&T. That's.
Oh yeah.
That has to be. I mean, the most severely underrated band of this genre ever. Yeah, I mean, just Meniketti's an incredible guitar player, great songwriter. I mean, just
great
everything.
Vocalist.
Great vocalist. I mean, and a super nice guy too. I mean, just really humble. Cool as hell.
When I met him, there's a place right down the street from my house called the Canyon Club. It's about maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes away in traffic. And I've seen Y&T there a gazillion times. And when I was in the first band that I was in, it was a band called Idora. And it's because I grew up in the Idora neighborhood of Youngstown, Ohio. We did Go for the Throat, and it was before I took vocal lessons. I am so embarrassed that I told him that song was on that album, and I gave it to him. I'm like, oh my God. I think about it now, and I'm like, oh, it's cringeworthy. You're like, oh, dude, you gave that to Dave Meniketti, you jackass. But he was so gracious, and he's like, can't wait to hear what you did with it. Yeah, I butchered it. So God bless you, brother. But I don't know. But they were just such a great band to see, fun to see live. And I actually ended up getting backstage to hang out with them too, because one of my buddies was in a band called Madman's Lullaby, and they were opening for them. So
Yeah, they're cool guys. I mean, they've always been cool. It doesn't matter what lineup Dave had or anything. Just a great band. I'm hoping that they're gonna. They have a small tour this year. It's in most everything's in California, so you guys might have a chance to see them. I mean, Dago, you might be close. You need to go see those guys.
Yeah.
Just incredible. Oh,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen them live, so
You
I would
must.
definitely.
yeah, you need
It's
to
a
see them.
rule.
You definitely need to
That's a
see
hard
them.
and fast rule. You need to see Y&T, dude. When you see them once, you'll want to go back over and over and over again. Every time I go, I'm almost, it's like front row almost every time. And
Yeah, you need to move up to the front because you got to see Dave play close up.
oh, this place is great, the Candy Club, dude. You go in there and you buy tickets, and if you buy the if you buy the, they have it's like a theater. You go sit down and you have dinner while the opening.
Nice.
I feel
I
bad
love
for the
places
opening
like
band.
that.
I feel bad for the opening bands because you're sitting there, you're having a steak and the opening bands are playing. You're like, you're sitting there chewing a ribeye. Like, yeah, you guys rock, man.
It takes it.
But,
it takes it away, unless
yeah.
it's Guar or somebody like
Yeah.
that. So that's a
But
nice
then,
fit
by
for
the
a
time
dinner
by the
menu.
time Y&T comes on, the breakfast, or the dinner's gone, the dessert's gone, and you're sitting there and you're in the front row and you just turn your chair and you stand up and you're just boom. But it's funny. It's like
Where
Y&T
is
dinner
that?
theater, Canyon Club, man. There's a whole bunch of them.
Oh, there's a few of them. I've missed Ace Frehley play there every time and he'll do one night he'll be in like Santa Monica and then the next night he'll be at the Canyon at the there's like 3 or 4 different locations I think, right?
Agora Hills, the Libby Bowl in Ojai. They have one in Santa Clarita. They have another one that's like way I can't remember where it is, but it's like way out, like right off the 10 inside a mall. I saw Lita Ford there. I saw Doc in there. There's like 4 or 5 of them. Plus they've got the Saban Theater, however you want to say it, in Beverly Hills, where I saw Europe. Got backstage for Europe for that show too. That was pretty amazing.
That's
got to
cool.
meet
Man, that's an underrated guitarist too, John Norum.
That's a band I want to
That's
see
my
live
idol, man.
too.
I saw him with Don Dawkins' solo band.
That
We saw
solo
that show.
album, that
It was
solo album
great.
is borderline better than most Dokken albums.
It's
It
the
was-
best
it
Dokken
was-
album there is. Sorry, not sorry.
And they really nailed that album live too. I mean, Don was at his peak right there, and to have that lineup. I mean, Billy White was the guy that that I was really amazed at because he was the guy that nobody knew who this guy was. John Norm's on one side. You're like, who's Billy White? And they just tore it up.
Yeah,
That's a great lineup there.
for sure. Yeah, it was. That was a blast seeing Europe though, man. And then getting backstage is like John Norm is like basically Ace Frehley, John Norm, Key Marcello, Red Beats. Those are kind of like Doug Aldrich, just like my top 5.
Great.
And I meet John Norm and I'm like, hey man. He's like, hello, how are you? And he'd already signed my guitar at the meet and greet, even though he wasn't there at the meet and greet. Their manager took it backstage for him to sign. Through good fortune, I got backstage. And I look at him and I'm like, he's like, hi, how are you? The second, I'm great, man. He's like, did you have good, did you enjoy the show? Yes, I did. Second, I said, yes. He's like, boom, gone. Like just ran to the tour bus. Didn't see him again. You're like, oh man. You're like, what? Was it me? Was it something I said? I just said hi and I had a great time. But
well, he knew it was the final countdown. That's what it was.
Yeah. No, he had to piss
Take
probably.
it out, man.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, I don't want to keep you if you guys are pretty much.
Yeah, we're getting ready to wrap it up.
This was awesome, Mike. We're gonna have to do this again with you.
I'll see if I can get Roy to come on.
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
JC.
He's a great guy. I had
Roy?
him on. I had him on last year, but I've talked to him a couple of times. I had him on a show though. I mean, he's a great guy. Man, he's a great guest. Great to anytime he wants to come on.
Dude, we gotta try to nail down Ron too because
I agree.
Some of our best podcasts have been just listening to Ron Keel just do his thing. There's only one Ron Keel.
Great guy, great stories.
who knows? Maybe you can get Ron and Roy on at the same time because he is on Roy's other band, the Fifth, is on
Yes, his
you know,
label.
Keel's label. So there's
That was his first band that he signed to his label.
first band that he signed.
That's a
You got
great
it.
band. Hey,
Guys,
guys,
thank you so much for this.
Oh, you're
This
welcome.
was fun.
We're glad to have you on, Mike. I mean, it's a good time.
Hopefully we got to most of your questions. We acknowledged you awesome people hanging out with us when it's probably past some of your bedtimes. But thanks for being with us. And Mike, again, this was great. I'm not missing another one of your shows, so just keep me.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Give me a little bit of advance notice, because if it's a during the week thing, I'll make sure I get that next day off. So
for sure.
Yeah, keep sharing stuff in the group too, Mike. I mean, we support everybody. I mean, we love
what
this
I'd like
music
to
that's
ask
coming
you
out
real
now.
quick before we go is obviously I know Steel City. What was your other band? I forget the name.
Love in Chains.
Love in Chains. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get that from the Paul Stanley solo album?
Yes. Yeah. Rob
That's
and
a
I
good
are
song,
both,
Duggo.
Yeah, we've only had the good fortune to play one show. We'd like to do more. It's just logistics are kind of killing us the same way it does with Steel City because everybody's in a different state. But Rob and I are big Kiss fans, and we wanted to name. We were looking for something. What can we do? We want to name this. We want to have it like since we're kind of like we were thinking about paying homage to Kiss and having like everybody take a turn at the mic, and it didn't work out. Rob was so, pardon my language, fucking awesome that it was like, yeah, we're not having anybody else sing. We're just gonna have you do it, dude. But we all wanted to name it after a Kiss tune, and that was the one that seemed to make the most sense because it's such a killer tune. And
that's a good one.
But if you really want to, like I said, if you really want to hear like the John Norum / Key Marcello influence, listen to a song off the Love in Chains album called "Darkness Falls," which
I watched that video. You're absolutely right, dude. That is sick.
I probably have seen it, but I'll get back and watch it again. These guys are all good.
Vocalist, dude.
Yeah, Rob. He's from Pittsburgh. He's actually from Youngstown originally, but he lives in Pittsburgh.
Nice.
He's a Pittsburgh guy.
What a voice.
Yeah, he's amazing. I have been blessed. When you think about it, you look at whether it was Idora with Brian Colquitt, Steel City initially with Brian Cole.
Brian Cole, I know that name.
Brian is.
He's another
Brian's
Pittsburgh
awesome.
Guy.
He's incredible. I mean, he put out 2, I guess you want to call them AOR albums.
A kid I knew from. I didn't go to school. I didn't go to school with this dude, but Bill Worley, who I knew, he went to a rival high school, same city. He went to Greensburg Central Catholic. I went to Hempfield, but we all lived in the same neighborhood, and I kind of grew up. He's the Eddie Van Halen kind of guitarist, and he had a project with Brian. So that's where I know that name from. But what a voice on that guy, for real.
Oh yeah, first Steel City album is Brian Cole, and
great singer,
killer singer. And like I said, then Roy came in, and the rest is history. I've been blessed that every singer that I have just can belt, it's like I feel so fortunate that these guys have said, yeah, we'd love to be a part of this group. And I just, like I said, just feel blessed. I don't know how the hell it keeps happening to me, but I'll just keep thanking God for that.
That's all good stuff. Guys, we're definitely going to do another one of these. It's going to be a regular thing. I think kind of like that. The next one I want to do is, we always talk about these albums that are, that are iconic, that everybody knows. But I'd like to think that maybe we need to bring in, some of the stuff that's more underrated of this era and discuss that, and maybe get some of these guys. And a perfect one for Roy to come on with is Cold Sweat.
Cold Sweat.
Because I've talked to him about that. I've talked to Mark Ferrari about that. And it's a great story about that band, because they came. If they would have come 5 years earlier, they would have been killer.
Yeah, and the fact that
Massive.
Roy almost didn't make it in that. The
Yeah.
whole story behind
Yep.
it's almost like the whole Mark Slaughter with Vinnie Vincent invasion.
Right.
He didn't send, or they lost his contact information. Like, wow, this guy's fucking great, but how do we find him? That kind of I
Mhm.
think that kind of thing almost happened to Roy as far as Cold Sweat goes. He almost didn't make it in the band.
I think he was. He replaced Oni Logan, is what it
He
was.
replaced Oni. He did.
Yeah, because Lynch kind of, snatched Oni up out of their grasp, and so then to me, I think that Cold Sweat kind of lucked out. I mean,
Oh,
Oni's a great singer, but
I'm sorry, they got
the
the
world-
better of the deal there.
Roy's, yeah, that's. I would
the
take
world
it.
got to
And
hear
here
Roy
he
Cassidy
is.
because of
He
And
sounds
here
like
it-
he did back then. The first time I heard the Fifth, I'm like, what a voice. Found out it's him, and I'm like, he
Yeah.
sounds like he's still 20.
yes, he does.
He does. He does. He's a great
Yeah.
singer. But anyway, guys, I want to
Thanks
thank
again,
everybody
John.
for listening.
Thanks for
That
putting this
tuned in here,
together.
chatted. Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah,
I'm glad I
thank-
got to have you guys on. It's really great to sit back and talk music, and this show it's going to be regular now, live. I got a lot of interviews I have lined up, but there's live ones coming up. Next week I got Mark Huff and Dennis D from Steel Mountain Crossing. Mark was in Quiet Riot for a little while.
Oh, wow.
Mark
went through
Huff
some-
goes way back in the early Vegas times.
Yeah, he went through some medical things he's going to discuss, and now he's making a comeback. And I got to hear some of the Steel Mountain Crossing stuff. It's really good. I can't wait to discuss that with those guys. I'm looking at some of the lineup here. Here's a really good one here. Tony Somerman from Knucklebones, the guys that make the really cool icon
really?
figures.
Mhm.
He the CEO. He's going to be coming on live with me. That's the 17th. Then we got this is a really good band out of LA. These guys are killer. Wings of Steel. What do you guys hear this? Their
You know
new
them,
album
Mike?
comes out on the 17th, I believe, of this month. But those guys are going to be joining me live on May 24th. So we're going to be introducing some new music, talking about some really cool figures. There's the Rock Icons figures that Knucklebones puts out. I'm really excited to get some of these guests on here. It's going to be a really good time. We've got some other interviews that are lining up right now. Some people that I'm working with to try to get some some of the guys that you're asking for now. We're always looking for suggestions. Who do you guys want to see on the show? Who do you want to hear come on here and discuss some good stories? And I'm constantly in the works with that. Reaching out with the PR people. I got some great PR guys that I work with and work for the labels. I mean, I give a shout out to those guys because they're really they really do a great job out there, and they don't get the attention that they deserve. And some of them are in this group. But those interviews are coming up. Got some other cool things coming up, and guys, I want to thank you for joining me here for discussing some great music, some great albums. We had a nice 10 here, but there's so many more that that we can bring up. So next show we'll get that done. I want to thank Mike for joining us, Duggo. Always, man.
Thank you.
Always love and John. Hopefully Kara gets better, man. I love you guys. I thank everybody for listening in. Have a good night, and thanks for rocking with the Fast Lane, man, because I appreciate it.
All right, guys.
Good night,
See ya.
guys.
Bye-bye.